a lot of work to be done, but you've already done some great work, which is why you're receiving this award. We had you on Bloomberg in Davos, and at the time you were saying that you were pretty confident that if there was a new president, if there was corruption being tackled, then credit agencies would stay away from downgrading South Africa. We've done a lot of political machinations, new appointments, new president, new finance minister. Are you confident that's enough to keep the credit agencies away?
We're very confident that this will take South Africa forward. So whether it stems the possible credit rating downgrade or it doesn't, it is not the real issue. What is important is that South Africa is taking decisive steps to correct the shortcomings that we have had. And I think that getting into the new year, we had a political uncertainty. We were not sure what kind of political leadership will emerge out of the conference of the governing party. We were not very clear about the policy trajectory that that leadership would actually take. We now know who that leadership is. You say new Minister of Finance is not a new Minister of Finance. He has come back. He's brought back his credibility to bear, and I think that we are on a very good wicket.
Okay, but is his credibility enough so that Moody's doesn't, can you avoid a junk rating by Moody's at the end of the month thanks to your new finance minister?
Well, it's going to take more than the finance minister. As I had previously said, that the future of South Africa's credit rating is in the hands of South African policymakers. Appointing a new minister of finance that brings credibility to the process is one thing. What does the policy trajectory look like? It's just only over a week ago that the minister of finance tabled a budget in the National Assembly. It was a very credible budget, very bold, that set down the path for fiscal consolidation. It put on the table some decisions which might be politically unpopular, but are absolutely the correct things to do in order to set the South African economy back on a better trajectory.
Governor, let me show you your favorite chart right now. This is strong rand, folks, and it's really the great testament of how better and the anticipation of a better South Africa. Since November of last year, the ARKIN is stronger rand, and the really great optimism of a print of under 12-1 on dollar rand. Governor, what can you do for big business? Francine and I spoke with the leadership of De Beers a few days ago. What does the central bank need to do to assist big business towards a more stable South Africa?
Well, our contribution to a stable South Africa has to resonate with our mandate. And I think that our job and what we can do for the business community is made so much easier now, because we have got a political leadership that had set a very solid policy trajectory that we believe is credible. And then I think that you are speaking to the leadership of De Beers. De Beers is a mining house, and if you were to ask them, they will tell you that they want policy certainty with respect to mineral policy in South Africa. We've just had a new Minister of Mineral Resources with extensive knowledge of the mining industry, has worked in the mining industries for decades, and has made it very clear that he wants to put that certainty within the next 3 months. He wants to clear the charts so that South African businesses can have investment going once again.
Governor, given the chart that Tom was just showing, the rand's big gains and its impact on the inflation outlook, does it create room for more easing of interest rates?
You know, we have walked this trip before, Francine, and, when the rand weakened, you asked the question the other direction.
Of course.
You asked if the rand has weakened, does this mean that the interest rates are going to go up? And the message is the same. The movement of the currency does feed into inflation, and what we watch is whether the rand now has strengthened, what would the second round effects be from a strong rand? And to the extent that the rand would sustain a lower inflation path, then it gives scope for monetary policy to say, well, with the kind of inflation outlook that we have, then we can adjust policy. And it just works the other way. If the rand were to have gone in the opposite direction, we would once again say, can we see what the pass-through effects are?
But Governor, from the level of the rand now, do you see it strengthening further?
Well, it's difficult to say. Suffice to say that the move on the rand starting in December last year was a welcome correction. It was correction that was trying to price in the prospects of a changing political leadership. It was taking cognizance of the fundamentals that South Africa, which was seen as vulnerable, which had a current account deficit of around 6% of GDP, now has a current account deficit of 2.3%, that we had throughout 2016 inflation that was outside of the target range. It is now firmly within the target range, that South Africa now has a positive net international investment position. What was really dragging sentiment in South Africa was the political uncertainty, and with that behind us, it gives us South Africans an opportunity to get working. And I think that the kinds of tone that had been set by the president is actually very positive in respect of sentiment.
You see, Tom, we're avoiding the rand currency strengthening question.
Well, yeah, he was very delicate about that. Governor, very quickly here, within your independence within South Africa, I think all of your nation and all of global Wall Street would like to know how South Africa and this troubled ANC party, the tumult of it, how they reinstitute and reaffirm rule of law in South Africa and move away from the timeless corruption that is in so many nations. How does South Africa get to a better rule of law?
Well, South Africans couldn't have hoped for a better leader than the president we are having now. He is the president who steered the drafting of South Africa's constitution. He is a serious constitutionalist. He understands the importance of the rule of law, having been at the forefront of the drafting of those rules. And our constitution has got all those built-in checks and balances. And I think, as I had said before on this channel, that the strength of South Africa lies in the institutions of its democracy. And those institutions have been undermined before. Many of the institutions had fought back to reclaim their constitutional space, and we can see the results of reclaiming of that constitutional space. The central bank having been one which had come itself under significant attack. We had to fight back with all the means at our disposal. We used the law to fight for our independence space. We won that space. And we also took that battle to the court of public opinion. And I think that South Africans have now thrown their weight behind the central bank.
Governor, given all these changes, would you consider going back to the National Treasury if asked by President Ramaphosa or even the finance minister? You worked there many years before you then joined the central bank.
I have done 15 and a half years at the National Treasury. The most senior technical job you can do at the National Treasury is that of the Director General of the National Treasury. I don't think I would like to do that again. I've gone on record to say that the biggest honor that a country could give any of its son or daughter is to ask them to be the governor of the central bank. There is no need for me to go to the Treasury, and I am no politician either, so I will not consider a political career. I'm a technocrat.